Donald Trump actually said our new military will bring back new focus on fitness. I love the idea that Trump is lecturing these guys on fitness. I mean, if that isn't the fondue pot calling the kettle fat, I don't know what is. Listen up, generals. I want to make something very clear. The Pillsbury Dough president wants you to do Pilates. The only push-ups Donald Trump does are from the side of an ice cream truck. If you get so fat you start breaking escalators, you are unfit to serve in the military.
When the targets have already turned themselves, the beauty of a roast is that no hyperbole is necessary. Into live-action jokes. The best evidence that reality has surpassed satire is provided by Donald Trump and Karoline Leavitt. A double act so absurd that writers are not even necessary for Jimmy Kimmel. All he needs to do is observe them. The present President Donald Trump continues to hold onto the hope that he will be remembered as a titan. With the assurance of someone who has never questioned anything in her life, Leavitt parodies his delusions as she scurries behind him like a hype woman for mayhem.
Karoline Leavitt, his press secretary, the woman who keeps insisting Trump didn't draw this or sign this in 2003, she was 5 years old. She was too young even for Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. So she knows. She knows. They're all... I love that these people are so certain he didn't do this. Well, he's never lied before.
The first target is the president's fixation with being perceived as a genius. Kimmel analyzes a man who believes that strategy is simply shouting louder than everyone else. With wild gestures, dramatic pauses, and unintelligible promises, Trump approaches every press appearance as though it were the season finale of a reality show. Kimmel depicts a boss who views retweets as a sign of success and conflates praise with policy. Because it exposes the ridiculousness of running the White House like a television set, the irony strikes a deep chord.
The only push-ups Donald Trump does are from the side of an ice cream truck. If you get so fat you start breaking escalators, you are unfit to serve in the military. But unfortunately, fantasy is more powerful than reality in this magosphere we live in, which meant it was time for our commander in cheeseburger to weigh in on one of the most pressing issues our military faces today, unattractive
Please remember to hit the bell icon and subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Leavitt, on the other hand, receives criticism for her part as the enthusiastic trainee in this circus performance. She not only supports Trump, but also exalts him as though his absurdity were infallible. She is ridiculed by Kimmel in a way that exposes mindless loyalty for what it is. Desperation that is embarrassing. She mimics Trump's every whim with the vigor of a college debate team member who believes that loudness equals triumph, rather than with nuance. She dismisses his outbursts as pearls of wisdom rather than challenging them, despite the fact that the majority of them fall apart when confronted with common sense.
So we heard from Erica Kirk. She said she forgives the man who shot and killed her husband. And then right after that, we heard from the president who said, I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them. How does that square with bringing down the temperature of political violence in this country?
Look, the president is authentically himself. I think that's why millions of Americans across the country love him and support him, including Erica Kirk, who you saw so beautifully was on stage with the president.
Kimmel focuses on how Trump dismisses facts like bothersome mosquitoes, swatting them away anytime they approach. It's not that he misinterprets reality. He is allergic to it, that's why. Every contradiction, odd reversal, and rejection is presented as if it were a sign of strength. Kimmel makes fun of this ability to instantly alter reality, likening it to a magician who is unable to perform a trick but maintains that the rabbit is still in the hat. Because Trump's actions are already so ridiculous that they hardly require further development, the comedy succeeds.
Yesterday, there's this video of what seemed to be garbage bags being thrown out of the window of the Lincoln bedroom. That's the White House. The official response from the White House said it was maintenance work being done while Trump was off on one of his many golf weekends. But Trump is even contradicting his own White House now.
There is a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residence upstairs and somebody has thrown a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's...
Leavitt also doesn't avoid scrutiny. She has a straightforward defense plan. With an even more straight expression, repeat Trump's bullshit. She will write an article about how blue is overrated anyhow if he claims that the sky is green. Kimmel exposes the emptiness of this routine by demonstrating that her job is to serve as a voice for someone else's ego rather than to exercise leadership or vision. After removing the showmanship, her remarks are little more than applause lines lifted from Trump's greatest hits album of grievances. The reason the roast succeeds is that it exposes the utter futility of participating in political karaoke.
And he's already figured out where to get the money. Trump today became the first president to sue the New York Times. He's suing the New York Times for $15 billion for defamation. $15 billion. Where does he even come up? These are like numbers my children make up when they're talking about money. I thought he said the New York Times was failing. He thinks they have $15 billion? How much would he sue for if he thought they were doing?
Trump's conceit becomes the subject of further mockery. This president is more captivated by mirrors than by laws. A man who thinks that all cameras are there to glorify him. He is portrayed by Kimmel as a person enmeshed in his own introspection, unable to discern between leading a country and posing for a picture. His fixation on projecting strength makes him appear weaker, because every move he makes is planned for show rather than results. Kimmel mocks the ridiculousness of someone who thinks that contrived clapping and ideal lighting can change history. Naturally, Leavitt is positioned as the driving force behind this self-serving endeavor. She mocks the notion that flattery is the same as serving the people by promoting his image, as if it were the cornerstone of the republic. Her readiness to serve as a spokesperson is dismissed as political satire, a performance whose sole objective is to lessen her boss's ridiculousness. Even the most proficient illusionist would find it hard to do.
The president has been hard at work coming up with all sorts of nonsense to distract us from the Epstein files, including, I don't know if you saw this, but he made a major announcement. I am ordering my administration to declassify and release all government records related to Amelia Earhart. Her final tip and everything else about her. Thank you for your attention to this.
Kimmel then shifts his focus to Trump's insatiable desire for conflicts. The present. Because he cannot survive without attention, the president has made arguing into an Olympic sport and picks disputes with everyone. No one is too big or too small for Trump to dispute with, whether they are journalists, athletes, or foreign leaders. He is portrayed by Kimmel as a man who approaches the presidency like the comments area of a subpar YouTube video, making fun of his obsessive rambling. It's immaturity on steroids, not strategy. Leavitt's involvement in these arguments is equally absurd, echoing with wide-eyed passion each screech. She misinterprets turmoil for charisma and adds gasoline to every fire rather than calming or directing him. The absurdity of the truth makes the humor sting. Tantrums are mistaken for statesmanship by two individuals.
He hiding? Like, there has to be something in there about him. I can't imagine him doing this because he cares about anyone else. This Epstein list, it's the first time Trump didn't want his name on something. There's a lot of speculation, naturally, including from the writer Michael Wolff, who wrote a bunch of books about Trump. Wolff floated the possibility that Trump may have had Epstein killed himself, which, listen, I know he's done a lot of things, bad things, but I don't think Donald Trump ordered a hit on Jeffrey Epstein. And the reason I don't think he ordered a hit is because if he did, he...
Next, attention shifts to Trump's attitude toward accountability, or instead, it's his lifelong allergy. Everyone else is held responsible for every failure. Every flaw was twisted into a plot. Each catastrophe was reframed as evidence of his genius. Kimmel makes fun of this never-ending victimization by likening Trump to a student who claims that the instructor is biased, the printer malfunctioned, the dog ate his homework, and the school is corrupt all at once. The ridiculousness is clear. A leader who rushes for safety when things go wrong, but wants accolades when things go well. Leavitt is prepared to make excuses wrapped in patriotic catchphrases to absolve him of responsibility. She presents the idea that reality must change in order to support Trump's story, rewriting tragedies into triumphs with the zeal of a carnival vendor peddling damaged goods. Kimmel mocks this strategy as desperation masquerading as loyalty, demonstrating that Trump doesn't appear powerful because of her dedication. It gives the entire enterprise a pitiful appearance. He isn't the only one making fun of him. Anyone who thinks that unquestioning loyalty can take the place of skill is at fault.
Trump announced the suit this morning. He wrote, "Today I have the great honor of bringing a $15 billion defamation and libel lawsuit against the New York Times, one of the worst and most degenerate newspapers in the history of our country. The Times has engaged in a decades-long method of lying about your favorite president, me, my family business, the America First movement, MAGA, and our nation as a whole. The New York Times has been allowed to freely lie, smear, and defame me for far too long, and that's..."
Kimmel attacks Trump's strange connection to patriotism. For him, the flag serves as a backdrop for demonstrations when the spectacle is more important than the content, not as a symbol of sacrifice. Real service and sacrifice are disregarded in favor of patriotism being viewed as performance art, complete with practiced motions and meaningless phrases. Kimmel depicts a man who confuses the drama of patriotism with the realities of running a country, seeing national pride as a marketing ploy. Leavitt, echoing this fake patriotism with feverish passion, adds her own element of ridiculousness. She wraps Trump's antics with a sheen of virtue by delivering platitudes, as if she were reciting sacred texts. However, Kimmel dispels that myth, pointing out the folly of considering political branding to be synonymous with true patriotism. This has nothing to do with achievements. Even if the world forgets the content, he wants to make sure that his name is remembered by making a statement to himself. Kimmel depicts the tragically humorous image of a man who longs for respect, but will be remembered for his ridiculousness, who wants statues, but will instead get memes, and who dreams of libraries, but will instead get blooper reels. It's failure wrapped in delusion, not just failure.
Any we may have heard of, by the way? 7 wars. Last week it was 10 wars. Now it's 7. Tomorrow it'll be 15 wars. This guy is ending. He ended Star Wars. I don't know if you heard that. He did. Poor Mark Hamill had to move on to other things. Listen, I have an idea of how you can get people to stop talking about releasing the Epstein files. Release the Epstein files.
That was additionally, Leavitt's part in this fantasy is ruthlessly ridiculed. She behaves as the custodian of his fictitious heritage, maintaining the facade as the building falls apart behind it. She is revealed by Kimmel to be the tour guide of a deserted museum who sells admission to non-existent exhibitions. The dedication to a myth that is already disintegrating is what makes it so ridiculous. The last-ditch effort to persuade the audience that greatness is happening when all that is taking place is a slow-motion collapse. Rehabilitation is impossible with Kimmel's dissection, since he doesn't only focus on the errors. He reveals the act's overall framework. Trump is shown as the leader whose every action was less about policy, and as the president who could not help but turn government into farce. Learn more about the show. Since the jokes are based on reality, they are effective. A chief executive who confused loudness with efficacy and sacrificed substance for ratings. The hollow echo of acclaim fades into mockery as his alleged greatness crumbles under the weight of its own theatricals. Its part in this unraveling is equally ridiculous. She presented herself as an advocate for the empire. Kimmel, however, demonstrates that she was more of a warm-up act, obligingly setting the scene for Trump's most recent outburst.
Trump says the Times is run by a bunch of lefties. He claims they're a mouthpiece for the Democrats. I have to say, I did do today's Wordle, and I don't know if you did, but he might be right. Besides how ridiculous it is, this might be one of the funniest legal documents I've ever seen. It's quite a tongue bath. One page lists Trump's, quote, hundreds of history-making media appearances, including WrestleMania 5, All My Children, Ghost Can't Do It, 2 Weeks' Notice, Days of Our Lives, Miss USA, Miss Universe, The Ali G Show, Marmalade, and much, much.
Her devotion was always motivated by escalating his fears rather than by conviction, till they had an authoritative tone. She became a mirror reflecting back the absurdity a second voice in an echo chamber that no one outside the cult could take seriously, rather than bolstering his message. She made a mistake that went beyond simple dedication. It was the conviction that she was a part of history rather than its punchline by parodying chaos. Kimmel's brilliance resides in demonstrating how the two unintentionally created a political parody. Every appearance became into a skit, every performance into a parody, and every phrase into a stale, rehashed tagline from a reality program. Leavitt served as the amplification mechanism, using Trump's raw silliness, boasts, feuds, and hollow confidence to turn every impulsively into a show. Without a single rewriting, they created a routine so bizarre that it could have been on late-night television. Kimmel doesn't need to go overboard. He only makes the necessary connections to uncover a comedy masquerading as the administration. The task is made considerably more difficult by the discrepancy between their perception of themselves and reality. Trump believed that he was a statesman who would be remembered for his monuments. However, he will be remembered in the future as a presidential blooper reel. Leavitt envisioned herself as a powerful force influencing the course of history. She is, however, relegated to a footnote and mainly known for her unwavering willingness to pass off foolishness as genius.
This is all another elaborate, made-up Democrat plot to distract us from the historically awesome job he is doing.
I think we're probably having, according to what I read, even from two people in this room, we're having the most successful 8 months of any president ever. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what we should be talking about, not the Epstein hoax.
We are almost at the I never met anyone named Jeffrey Epstein part of this story.
So what they're trying to do with the Epstein hoax is get people to talk about that instead of speaking about the tremendous success like ending 7 wars. I ended 7 wars.
That's a lot of war.
Kimmel emphasizes how their illusions failed to uplift them. They enlarged the ridiculousness. The more they attempted to steer the conversation, the more absurd it got until the only thing they could do was laugh. The reason the demolition job is so effective is because it is done with comedy instead of rage. Comedy creates a lasting scar, but outrage can be ignored. The punchlines change people's perceptions, making it impossible to take Leavitt's commitment or Trump's grandiosity seriously ever again. Trump, laughably delicate but larger than life. Additionally, eager but forgettable Leavitt is shown as an actor posing as a leader. Kimmel makes sure that their role in the narrative is one of theater gone bad rather than one of victory. Their fervent attempts to be remembered as visionaries have failed, and their scream has turned to laughing, ensuring that they will always be punchlines in a farce that history will never stop repeating.